Heat Warriors tonight on NBA TV. Warriors are going to get ready here. If you've checked the schedule, they're headed east next week, right? 2 back-to-backs. They got Charlotte. It's not necessarily a super tough schedule, but just the way it's placed, you'd like to get this last win again before you head out on a longer road trip. You've got the Heat coming in who have struggled to start the season, but kind of had a feel-good game last night in Portland where they finally shot well from behind the arc. You saw Dame went out there with a calf injury late, but you look at this Heat team and they're playing small. Bam at the 5, Jimmy at the 4, Caleb Martin, Hero, and Lowry. And so now all of a sudden you look at this Warrior, the matchups here early on have called for James Wiseman. We've played teams with centers, right? You wonder if Steve Kerr takes this opportunity to get Kuminga in some meaningful minutes. Right? He's just really only played garbage time. This would be the perfect matchup for that. Jimmy, where he could match up against Jimmy at the 4. And hell, I think he could handle Bam. That's the key to me is Bam Adebayo. Make him a scorer. One of the systemic problems that the Warriors have had defensively, and we've got a lot of them right now, but just long term has always been over-helping, crashing down into the paint. And then you leave shooters specifically in the corners. Now, Bam, to me, is much more of now this is a stretch. He's not Jokic by any means, right? But in the sense of he's perfectly fine distributing, touching the ball in the high elbow or the post and kicking it right out, right? He's comfortable doing that. I wouldn't overreact to him with post catches, whether it's on Kuminga, Wiseman, our young guys. Make him a scorer. I dare him to score because sure, he'll get you 18 or 20 points. I don't think he'll take over. I think he's got a cap on how much he can score mentally. He doesn't have a scorer's mentality. And if we overreact to Bam on his touches, it can open up their shooters. You saw Max Strus hit a couple last night. Lowry finally got feeling good and hit some. And so I would stay home on Bam and individually make them beat us defensively. When you look at Lowry and you look at Jimmy, they are 2 of the top shenanigans foulers in the league. Did I say that right? You know what I'm saying. They when it comes to them drawing fouls, they have all the shenanigans and tricks in the book. And you look at Poole and you look at Moody in particular, our young guys are going to get baited into some bad fouls. And we've got to keep them off the line. We've got to keep the free throw line even somewhat, as opposed to what we saw in Phoenix. And it's a difficult thing because you crowd Jimmy or Lowry, right? They'll rip through under you, they'll bump, they'll nudge, they'll flail, they'll flop. You give them a little space and kind of dare them because that's logically what you'd say. Well, let's just gap them a little bit and kind of dare them to shoot from the perimeter where they are weaker. But they use that space to draw that block charge call, right? They very good at attacking angles and selling that call, and then them being the vets, that's where they get it. So I think that's one key is keeping those 2 off the foul line, and that's going to be a tough task for our young guards, right? The other storyline, I think, is Klay Thompson. Does he have a bounce-back game? And he wants it, right? But you look at some of these matchups, and, Spoelstra is, a lot of people think, the best coach in the NBA. I'm not going to argue with him, or with you if you have to say that. So maybe he has something up his sleeve or he's doing something. But on paper, is Hero going to match up with Klay? You assume Jimmy, Wiggins, right? Lowry, Steph. I guess they could use Caleb Martin since they're rolling out like all these guards and forwards. But my question would be, does that work against Klay? Because we know that Klay is at his best when he lets his shot and offense just come within the flow of the offense, just natural, right? When Klay forces the issue, that's when he tends to get out of pocket and inefficient. And if he sees Tyler Hero in front of him, is he going to be calling for post catches? Is he going to be trying to get downhill? Is it going to make him over aggressive? So I'm curious to see Klay's approach in this matchup where right now, it seems like he would be drawing the 3rd or 4th weakest defender on the perimeter. But he's just got to stay patient, take the shots that are provided, and I think he'll get going. Because we know once he gets going, then he can get aggressive. Then all the rules of shooting are out the window once he's hot. Zombie mode Klay. So do we get that? But, who wins the 50-50 balls? Miami, they got a lot of scrappers on their bench, but they still play small. So I think that's key. And you look at rebounding and threes. Rebounding is an area we've struggled in this year so far. Threes is where they've struggled in. Who can neutralize that? If I were to guess, I don't like doing predictions because there's just too many games. Like we can do predictions in the playoffs, right? But regular season games is, you know what I mean? I think we get it done. And I think it's just from behind the arc. I think that we outshoot them from three, and that's really the difference. But I'm more so curious to see if Kuminga can get some real minutes here and how dynamic Kerr's going to be, because this is really the first kind of small ball matchup of the season. You can play JaMychal at the 5. He can get more creative with the rotation tonight. And so does that help? Does that hurt? We'll see. I think the Warriors pull out the dub, though, before they head out east next week. I'll be back tomorrow morning with the breakdown. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.